So without further ado, Miss Candy Gibbs.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to give you guys this outline, and I'm not going to go by it totally, but this will kind of keep me honest and on track. I am going to shut this because it makes me nervous. I am so honored to be able to talk to you tonight, and I want you to know that what I hope is that we talk about the things that you want to talk about. And so I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions and answers at the end, because what I want this talk to be is very relevant to you as a mom and a dad. I want to also start by saying that I believe that you could do everything exactly right and be a perfect parent if there ever was such a thing, and your kiddo could still make some very poor, very wrong choices. And so what I want to first say is, in my mind, parenting is about your relationship with the Lord. Parenting is about my relationship with the Lord. And it really isn't about how my kiddo is going to respond. It's about, am I doing what I think the Lord wants me to do for the best of my kid? And then I have to leave to them the choices that they're going to make. And so I don't want it to seem like I'm saying, well, it's all the parents' fault, and if they weren't doing X, Y, and Z, then these kids would not be making mistakes, because kids are kids. The other thing, and this is something that you said, and this just makes me want to go, yeah, because when you said, we talked to him about James, and we talked to him about Romans, one of the things that I am so convicted of is that the Holy Spirit that lives in me is the same Holy Spirit that lives in our kids. And so does that make, if I have a 12-year-old, does that make the Holy Spirit 12 in them? No, it does not. He is God. He is the creator of the universe, the beginning and the end. The same God in me is in them, and they can get some deep truths. They can get more than Noah's Ark. They can get more than the 10 Commandments. They can understand the Word when we give them opportunity to do it. The other thing is, if you've ever had a gifted and talented kiddo, and they go to school and they can do the thing like that, and it's not a challenge, and I'm done in 5 minutes, and I'm bored out of my mind. And many times those are the kids that are going to get in trouble, because they're just, I'm done with that. What am I going to do now with the next 7.5 hours or whatever it is? It really is the same thing I see spiritually in kids. They're going, we could do more. We could understand more. We can reach out more. And so when you give them opportunities to understand deeper things, I just see kids doing incredible things. I want to, does anybody in here have a preschool kid? Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but there are just a few things I want to start by saying. And at any time, if you have a question or I say something wrong and you want to clarify or ask something else, please go ahead and do that. We'll just stop what we're doing. The first thing that I think we all don't think about is that it's very important, the foundation that we lay. So if you have a preschooler, it's important that you have a safe atmosphere at your house, which means anything you say is okay. As long as you say it with respect, I'm game to talk about anything that you say. Because what they start to learn is, if I have questions, I can ask my mom, and my mom is not going to panic and freak out. That doesn't really sound like a big deal when they're 3, but when they get 12 and 13, it's a real big deal that you don't freak out when they ask some questions. The next thing is, discuss private parts and what's appropriate. This is always, everyone's favorite topic, but we need to teach our kids what their private parts are called when they're little. Like boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. And every time I've ever given this talk, there'll be a mom go, I can't tell my son that he has a penis. And I'm like, well, to him, a penis or a pee-pee, it's all the same thing. It's us that has the problem with the word. So it's important that they think you know what you're talking about. Because this isn't in Amarillo, but there are school districts in Texas who bring in sex education people, and they start in kindergarten. And they'll sit these kids down in a circle in kindergarten, and they will say, we're going to go around and you're all going to tell me what your private part is called. And so the kids start and they say, that's a, wee-wee, a pee-pee, all those things. And after they make it around the circle, then the person leading the discussion will say, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. If you have any questions, you need to come and ask me. Well, what that starts to tell kids when they're in kindergarten is either my mom and dad do not know these kinds of things, or they are too embarrassed to talk about it. And so if I have a question about my body or sex, I need to go ask this lady. Now, as we kind of go through this tonight, I'm going to tell you some of the ways that we've parented, and I'm going to confess to you that I am way on the radical side. But if you worked where I work, you would be way on the radical side. But you don't have to agree with everything I'm going to say. You might go, I think that's absurd. I'm giving my kid a cell phone or whatever. And that's fine. Because what I think is you are your own kid's parent. Your values, your morals, your thinking is what should be passed on to them. Not mine, and not some lady that's going to talk to them at school. So be sure that when you talk to them that you're just using the appropriate terms and calling things what they are, and don't be embarrassed about any topic that they might bring up. I'm now looking at ages 5 to 11. And the first thing there says, there is no such thing as the sex talk. And probably all of us in this room, if you were told anything by your parents, it was probably one time. Some of us, your mom and dad said nothing to you. But I remember I did get one talk, and I was in the 7th grade. And I can remember coming home from school, and when I got home, my mom and my grandmother were both sitting on the couch, which it was, not unusual that my grandmother would be there, but they're looking at me with this like June Cleaver grin on their face. And my mom goes, we have a book for you, and it's on your bed, and we want you to go read that book, and if you have any questions, then you come back and ask us. And I thought, so I get in there, and it was a book called The Wonderful Way Babies Are Made. And I can remember looking through that as fast as I could. I opened my bedroom door and went, I have no questions, I got it. And I know they're in there going, thank the Lord, check that off. Well, your kids have a completely different experience than even you had regarding sex, and the fact that everywhere they go, everywhere they look, it's in front of them. Giving your child facts about sex does not rob them of their innocence. 93% of kids hear about sex from someone other than their parents. So that means 7% of the time are we the ones sharing our thoughts about sex with our kids. And experts say that you should explain sex, and I'm talking about the full mechanics, physiologic description of it, by the time they're 8 years old.
8?
8.
Gosh.
One of the reasons is because they're going to hear things. And the information that they hear starts in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. I remember getting passed a note. This boy passed a note around my 2nd grade class when I was in 2nd grade, and that was a long time ago. Are you a virgin? And I went home and was like, Mom, what is a virgin? And my mom, who gave me the book, nearly fell out of the car. And so that was that many years ago. Your kids are hearing stuff way younger than that. You got kids in preschool chasing each other around, trying to kiss each other. I mean, it is happening very, very young. So age 8. I'm going to skip a little. What if your child asks you a question you don't know? Now that's funny that it's even on here. But there are terms like rainbow room, hooking up, friends with benefits, booty call, and you may not know some of the things. I'm going to hand you out a sheet in a minute that has abbreviations for texting and what they mean. You will not want your kids to see the page that I'm going to give you. It's amazing. But what point was I just making? Oh, what if you don't know the answer? It's okay to say, I don't know what that is, but I'll find out. And then we can have a discussion about it. So be sure when they give you a teachable moment to take it. D right here, this is the one that I still hate to talk about, but it's masturbation. And this is, I was at Focus on the Family, and I was in a question and answer thing with Dr. Dobson. And someone asked him the question about that topic. And what he said is, you should not go to extreme on either end of that, because if you have a boy, at some point likely that has happened. And he doesn't need to feel like, if that has ever happened, that he is a pervert and there is something terribly wrong with him. At the same time, you should not know that that's going on. You shouldn't be, walking in on something. You shouldn't have him locking his door and being alone in his room. All of that. If that's happening, you have a problem. The main thing regarding that is your thoughts. And where is your mind going? And pornography is extremely addictive. It is rampant in every atmosphere, whether it's school or a church. I have two sons. My oldest son is 19, and my second son is 12, and then I have a little girl who's 10. And I can tell you, I have been so offended as a mom, even standing in line at grocery stores before, because I think that, I'm like, you're kidding me. That's the way the woman's dressed on the front of the magazine. And I am a 37-year-old woman. And then I look down at my almost 13-year-old son, and you want to stand in front of him so that he can't see the magazine stand. And the fact of the matter is, I've had discussions with my boys that goes something like, at some point, you're going to see a picture of a woman that's inappropriate, and you're going to want to look. But it's a trap. And it's a trap that the enemy uses to catch men. And I think teaching your kids to think ahead, that when things like this happen, I recognize that this is an opportunity for the enemy to catch me. And if I can think ahead of him, then I can avoid some of those traps. And certainly physical appearance and pornography and magazines, that is a very big deal for boys, men, and men. The other thing is, it's so important to talk to your boys about how to take their thoughts captive. We read that verse that says, taking every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. Well, what does that mean? I was in a counseling session with a 14-year-old boy about a year and a half or 2 years ago, and he goes to a Christian school here. And he was in to talk to me because he had a girlfriend who had written in her journal, and the girl's mom read the journal, and she had written about the fact that she had had oral sex with him in the copy room at this Christian school. And so his punishment was to come and talk to me. And so I'm talking to this boy and, really giving him the what for. And this poor kid was like, I remember him coming in and I said, why don't you tell me what happened? He goes, didn't you talk to my mom? No, I did talk to your mom, but I want you to tell me with your mouth exactly what happened. And this little boy was like devastated. And after we had finished, I said, do you have any questions? And he said, I do have a question. He said, I am on the varsity football team at my school. And all those boys talk about are girls and sex. Do you know what that does to a 14-year-old boy? And I thought, nope, I have absolutely no idea. But there's a man that you know that really does. And it is so important to our boys that their dads start to say to them, hey, I know exactly what that's like. It has happened to me. Here is how I take my thoughts captive. My son, who's 19, when we were talking to him, I would say things like, dude, you need to go play basketball. When you're in your room, first of all, alone is not good. Dark places is not good. And so if you are alone and you have thoughts, You need to get up and go do something. Go run around the block, go shoot baskets with your buddy, do something to retrain your thinking. Turn on praise music, go read a book, but you have to deliberately take your thoughts captive. But that's a huge thing for boys. Do y'all have any questions about any of that? Okay, if you have a preteen, how many of you have a middle school? Okay. Right now is an incredibly crucial time for them because they're getting ready to be like full-blown in the teenage years. And you want to give them as much information as you possibly can now. Because it really is like they're going into a tunnel. It's going to get real loud and real dark. They do come out the other end. But they're going to hear you better right now than they are when they're 16, 17, 18. You want to let them know what's coming, like their body's going to change. They are going to be attracted to the opposite sex, and that's good. That's normal, and everybody feels that way. Lack of confidence. I think it is so important to try to remember what it's like to be in middle school. Middle school is a very difficult place to live. If you go to work every day or you come to church and you don't have friends and people don't accept you and you don't fit in, you can change anytime you want to. But if you're in the 7th grade and you are not accepted and people make fun of you and they're mean to you, you still have to come back tomorrow. And it is a hostile environment because everyone's fighting for their position. And so I'm going to make fun of you before you make fun of me. And it's just a toxic, toxic place to be. My school, my kids' school, had Wunderland night a couple of weeks ago. And we went, and I can remember just looking around at kids, and there were like 5th graders coupled up, and, you know, all kinds of stuff going on, and my stomach hurt. I mean, I'm looking around thinking, oh, where's your mother? You know, and I mean, I felt nauseated. And I got in the car to drive home, and I was like, Lord. And I felt like the Lord said to me, this is what your kids live through every day. I mean, every day, this is the environment that your kids are in. It's very difficult. And so just kind of thinking like that, there's a couple things. One is, I was the kind of mom that when I picked my oldest son up from middle school, I mean, I've waited to see you all day long. So when you get in the car, I want to know, who'd you sit with? Who'd you talk to? How'd you do on your test? Was so-and-so nice? You know, all of this stuff. And he would be like, yes, Mom, you know, just so frustrated. And finally, I realized, you know, how about you give them a little space? Because it kind of is like detox. And let them come home and shake some of that off. And your home should be a place of peace for them. And then maybe dinner time, maybe a little later, then you can start to have a reasonable conversation with him. But what happens is we want to talk now, you don't, you smart off, I get mad, and the whole night then is blown. Instead of us, you know, let's get wise here and let's figure out how to play this game. The other thing is, I still and I think it's very important that you continue to remind yourself that you are the adult. I mean, I don't know how many times I've wanted to be a 7th grader because what you just said makes me want to rip your face off, you know, and so then you want to go, well, I really don't want to be here either, you know, and things, and if you let it escalate to that point, you know, it's kind of like being an alcoholic. If you've ever known a person who's an alcoholic, it takes a while before you start to pass out when you drink, and you kind of work up to it. But once you hit that point where you're passing out when you drink, very quickly, every time after that, you're there. It's the same thing emotively in your home. And if you let yourself, you know, we're working up, and now we are screaming our heads off at each other, then it doesn't matter if you failed every test you took this week or you forgot to put the toilet seat down. I am this mad at you every time. That is a very, very dangerous place to be. The other thing is, it is very important that your kids speak respectfully to you. Because when they are 11 and 12 and they start to get that little snippy kind of smart mouth back to you, if you don't stop that, by the time they're 15 or 16, it's bad. And that is the kind of thing that does cause that emotion to raise high. And really the only suggestion that I have, if you're at the point where, I mean, whoa, you can really push my buttons quickly, a really good thing is to leave. Take your kids and go somewhere. And it doesn't matter if you go to Paladora Canyon for an afternoon or if you can take a weekend trip or something. But when you take them out of their environment and away from their cell phone and their friends, and I have you and I'm not on my cell phone, and we're engaging, then that does a whole lot for when you come back and that little emotion gauge can start to fall back down. But if it's going there, you need to do something to alleviate that. The other thing I have, I think this is somewhere on your outline, is that it's so important to encourage your kids. And, you know, I heard Jimmy Evans one time say, don't let the enemy take a snapshot of your kid today and tell you this is the way it's going to turn out. Because everybody, I mean, they go through things. And there are better times and there are worse times. And so don't let discouragement take over for you. And remind them when they are not acting like it, you are one of the smartest kids I know. You are one of the most talented kids I know. You are honest. I'm not sure why you came and told me a lie about what went on at school today, but you are an honest kid. And just begin to speak life to them and encourage them because they've been told how stupid, ugly, dumb, retarded, nerdy they are all day long. And they don't need that from us. And so I think that's really important. Peer pressure is a big deal. And I think we need to remember what it was like to be a kid, to be a teenager. It was certainly a big deal in my life. But even now, it's a big deal. And the way I know that is, for example, what if your kid comes home and says, I got invited to this party, and it's at so-and-so's house. And here's my judge, because I'm pretty simplistic, but I think that most of the time your first gut instinct is usually the Holy Spirit. And so usually that's what I'm going to go with. And so if I'm like, I don't know these kids, I don't know these people, I'm probably not going to let you go to the party. So no, you can't go. Well, then on Tuesday, he's going to come home, and before I can turn around, his room's going to be clean, the dogs are going to be fed, and he's going to offer to do the dishes. And then when you take him to bed, he's going, Mom, you know, everybody's going to that party. Can I go to the party? And you're saying, no, I don't think you can go. So Wednesday, he's going to come home, and he's going to say, you are the devil. And everybody else at school is going, and I don't know why you don't trust me, and I have never done anything that would make you not trust me, and why can I not go? And they throw this incredible fit. And you go, no, you're not going to go to the party. And then on Thursday, Billy's mama calls you because she finds out that your little Johnny's not going to go to the party, and then she starts to wonder, well, you know, does she think I'm a bad mom because I'm going to let Billy go to the party? So she calls you and she's like, really? Do you think it's that big of a deal? And, you know, do you think maybe you're being a little too strict? And then you start to go, well, maybe I am nuts. And so we can give in to peer pressure as easily as they can. It hasn't even been a month, well, not long ago, because it was the movie Little Fockers. And these couples invited my husband and I to go to the movie. Well, immediately I'm like, I don't think I can go see that movie. And you know, if you saw it, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I work with enough kids. I don't want a kid to see me seeing that. And so, you know, I spent a week and a half probably going, how am I going to say to them that I don't want to go see that movie, you know? And so I do it. I say, I can't go, we can't go. And I'm like, Brian, I'm so glad I've done that. I told him he can't go. And I felt so convicted because I thought, You ask kids to get up and leave a place where people are drinking or smoking pot or tell their boyfriend they will not have sex, and you're proud of yourself because you told your friends you would not go see an immoral movie. And okay, we all have some work to do when it comes to peer pressure. The other thing, back to the party deal, is if that situation happens and you don't want your teen to go to something like that, the best thing to do is give them something else. And I mean, we've done crazy, like, okay, Tech is playing and I'll drive you and 3 of your buddies and we'll go to the Tech football game. You can have everybody over here and y'all can stay up all night long playing football in the backyard. You know, here are all of your options. You can't do this, but you can do any of these other things. And really, that usually works because it isn't so much that party, it's just that I don't want to be the only one not. And so if you'll give them another option, then that usually works. Now, I do want to tell you that I had a group of kids come in. This has been a couple years ago too. But it was a 6th grade party, and it was in River Road. It was like a birthday party. And there were several moms who brought their kids to us after this party, and they were so upset and so regretting that they'd let their kids go. One of the moms was like, I didn't feel good about it. Well, they ended up dropping all these kids off at this house where there was no adult. And they had an oral sex party. And these kids, some of them traumatized in their 6th grade, coming to us because they were at a place they never should have been. And the moms who let them go, who didn't think they should go to begin with, can you imagine what that would feel like? And so it's important that you find out what's going on. You need to know your kids' friends and you need to know their parents, because you cannot take for granted that other people parent like you do, because they don't. I know there are people all over Amarillo who think, well, they're going to drink, so if they're going to drink, then they can drink at my house, which, you know, of course, nothing bad happens then. There's a mom that I know that is a Christian family, and she keeps a jar of condoms on top of her refrigerator, and she keeps it full. And the deal is, it's a don't ask, don't tell. Anyone in and out of that house can take one. She just makes sure that the jar stays full. You don't want to trust your kids to people that you don't completely know. Here's another thing. I'm not a big fan of spending the night, and I'm going to tell you why. When they're this big, scary things can happen to them when they spend the night. Statistics are 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually molested before they turn 18. And they really think the number's higher for boys, but boys are less likely to tell anybody. So I don't think it's real wise. Now, my daughter is my youngest. She has one friend that she spends the night with on occasion. And there are 2 friends that sometimes spend the night with us. My son has a couple friends that he can spend the night with. So I'm not saying we never do it. I'm saying you need to be wise when you do it, and you need to know. Slumber parties for little girls. If you have little girls and you've sent them on a slumber party, that is brutal. Somebody is always getting their feelings hurt at a girl slumber party. However, we all think we can be the one that has one where nothing like that happens. But it does happen, because girls just do that. They have a mob thing. And I'm going to get mad at you, and I'm going to get everyone else mad at you. And then there's that one girl who just is tortured until her mom picks her up. The other thing is, when they're in junior high or high school, now maybe you weren't like this, but when I was that old, it was effort. I mean, I've got to have the blow dryer and the curling iron and a bunch of hairspray, because that's when the hair was up like that, and makeup and all of that. It took effort to go spend the night with someone. If I did that, it was always because I could get away with more there than I could at my house. So if you have a teenager and they always want to go to Sally's house to spend the night, and Sally never comes to your house, that should be a warning where you're going, I wonder what goes on at Sally's house. And friendship should be reciprocated. Don't let it always be that your kids go. At some point you need to go, you've been over there twice, You're not going back over there till they come over here. Because then you get to know that kid, that child gets to know you, and it's even. You want to be the house where kids want to be. You want to be the mom that drives people places. Because it's amazing to me that, I don't know what they think, like this is like bulletproof or something. They're back there and you can get the best information because they don't think you can hear them. And I mean, you strive and boy, you know, you got some ammo. So be the kind of parents that kids want to be around. And be active. Be active with your kids because they, you know, teenagers are funny creatures and they have such a difficult exterior. I mean, they really do. They're hard to get close to, very porcupine-ish. But the thing about it is, it doesn't take much pushing for them to let you in because they really do want to. And so even though for a minute it may be like that, you'll be surprised when you just spend time. They kind of do want to let you in. And so don't be deterred by that. Be their excuse and their example to peer pressure is what I said there. The next thing is dating. This is one I'm going to spend a little time on it, probably go on 13 tangents. Here's some statistics. If a girl begins dating in the 6th grade, now everyone in here is like, right, who does that? Well, I mean like she's got her phone, she texts boys or calls boys and we're going out and I'm buying Christmas presents or Valentine presents and we're being dropped off at the movies maybe. That's dating. If a girl does that in the 6th grade, 91% of the time she will have sex before she graduates from high school, not marriage. 91% of the time. Now, first of all, if you do have kids that age and you are dropping them off in groups at the movies, you really ought to go talk to the movie theater people about what happens at the movies on Friday night. And I say this stuff, and I know y'all are going to think I'm lying, but go ask them. It used to be, and this still does happen, but the main thing used to be that they'd get at the very top and have oral sex. And I had a board member one year. I'm going to tell you who it was because you might know her, and she'd vouch for this, Linda Studo. And, you know, we talked about this in a board meeting, and everyone's like, really? You know, I can't even believe it. Well, one day she calls me, and she's like, oh, my gosh. I was at this movie, and I look over, and that is exactly what these two kids are doing. And she said, I am completely dumbfounded. And ends up having to go get the security guy, and, I mean, it was quite embarrassing for everyone involved. Now, what happens is, you know, you have the big screen, and then if you notice that down below that screen is a black curtain that's about that high off the ground. Well, they sneak back in there underneath that.